Next, the Faye What Show has a very special premiere interview. For it, we went to the very tippy top. The National LGBTQ Plus Task Force was founded back in 1973, just 4 years after the Stonewall riots. It began as the Gay Task Force, and then in 1983 added lesbian to its name. In 2014, it adopted today's name. The task force is at the forefront of LGBTQ grassroots civil rights and is one of the world's most important advocacy organizations for our community. They are central to electing officials, supporting LGBTQ rights, protecting voting rights, trans protections, reproductive issues, and so much more that is critical for our community. The task force is world-renowned for the National Task Force Gala, recently held in Miami Beach, America's most important LGBTQ training and advocacy conference called Creating Change that will be held in New Orleans in January. And the world-famous Winter Park Week in South Beach that is one of the world's greatest circuit parties and important as a cause fundraiser. This morning, we are so excited to bring you not one, but two titans in the LGBTQ civil rights movement. Both worked in Washington, D.C., including KIERA Johnson, Executive Director, and MAYRA Hidalgo Salazar, Deputy Director, both of the National LGBTQ Task Force. This morning, perfect guest on the premiere of America's LGBTQ morning show, The Faye What Show. Girl power, baby! Welcome, KIERA and MAYRA, to The Faye What Show. Girls, I am so excited that you are my first interview on the new Faye What Show. Thank you for saying yes.
What a welcome.
Yes, girl.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so cute.
So good to be with you.
Oh, thank you, Mama. So, LGBTQ Task Force, I saw you guys there a couple of weeks. You looked amazing. How important was it? For KIERA, like your speech was probably the one I enjoyed the most of the evening, and that's hard to say because Miss Robin Schwartz does not stay behind, all right? Your speech was incredible. How important was it for you to be on that stage in front of, what, 700 plus people?
Yeah, it was, we've been in the middle of a pandemic, and it was so clear from the energy in that room how much we needed each other, how much we missed each other, how much energy and inspiration that we get from each other. And so for me, it was important as a new executive director of a national LGBTQ organization to be in community with you all, right? And to be a bridge to bring you all together again after so long.
And that is what you guys did. Yeah. That is what you guys did. MAYRA, I saw you work in the room, my friend. How did it feel to be back among people that feel the same way that we do?
I wasn't able to be in person for the gala. We did have to downsize some of the folks that were able to attend in person. And but I do think about this moment. I think the gala is about celebrating how far we've come. I think it's about thinking about the road ahead. I think KIERA and I are very honored to be in these roles and in an organization that has a legacy of supporting LGBTQ people across generations. I think for me as a 30-year-old coming into my role as Deputy Executive Director, it's like thinking about the fact that I get to work with these badass queer women who have literally created the conditions for the both of us to be in leadership is really nice. So seeing that whole story play out at gala, even from far away, was really lovely.
I love that you referred to us as queer women. I love that. Like I've always, that word, I love to take that word back. I'm glad that we took the power back when it comes to we're queer, we're women, and that's not a bad word. What do you think about that, KIERA?
I believe in the power of language, right? And sometimes we're coming out and we don't have the right language yet, right? Like, and we're looking, right? We're looking for a community, we're looking for our voice, but we're also looking for the right language. And so the more we expand that language, the more opportunity there is for us to find it.
Yes.
Right? So I love it. I love queer, I love bisexual, I love pansexual. Yes. There's so many alphabets now. I'm like, I gotta research. I gotta stay up on my names.
I've got an auntie that says, yes, LGBTQIA, LMNOP. Yes, love it all.
The alphabet club.
Right?
That plus comes in handy.
It really does, because everything else fits in the plus. So the task force is one of the world's most important LGBTQ civil rights organizations. Explain why it's so vital, especially today.
The task force is about engaging people and empowering people, providing access for people to live their full identities, right? There's this word intersectionality, right? That now a lot of people know, they understand, they've heard. And that is the place where the task force centers its work, right? Like the three of us don't show up just as lesbians or bisexual or queer. Our race is lived in tandem with our sexual orientation. Our gender is lived in tandem with our sexual orientation. Our immigration status lives in tandem. And so as we are trying to figure out what we need to do to make sure no LGBTQ plus person is left behind, that means we have to be doing policy work and cultural work at the intersections.
Yes, one of my favorite parts of your website is Be You. You guys are constantly streaming.
All of me, all the time.
Be You, Be You. Tell me a little bit about that, Mayra.
So, I mean, Be You, all of me, all the time is pretty much what KIERA just said. It's about the fact that I cannot divorce being a woman, being an immigrant, being a Latina, being queer lesbian, at any one moment. I'm all of those things all the time. And I think whenever we think about policy, the task force really tries to take a holistic approach.
Yes, definitely.
Of thinking of all of those angles, and I think for me, what it has meant to be an immigrant woman, also who is a queer lesbian, it has meant like the pathways to legalization were limited for most of my life in ways that they weren't limited for heterosexual people. Truth. It means that me being at risk of being deported back to my country of birth, Costa Rica, it looked very different for me to live my full life in Costa Rica, right? So I think my full authentic life and self. So I think all of those variables are included in how we think about our policy. It also is how we think about the way we convene people for creating change. Our Creating Change conference has real-time ASL.
In January, make sure you get your tickets.
Please sign up. Spanish language interpretation, and I think the task force is constantly on a journey to really like identifying, okay, who's not in the room?
Yes,
that's right.
Who's not in the room and why? And how can we make sure we are being more accessible and inclusive in our spaces?
Something I have to touch on that a little bit. At the task force, I couldn't help but look around to those beautiful 700 people because we clean up nice. We look good when we take a shower and get pretty, right? But probably 30% of the room were women, excuse me. That's about it, and I'm probably being a little extravagant in that number. I'm sitting at this table with Latinx, Black, Brown, queer, pansexual, and I feel super, super blessed. Why aren't more of us out there doing more?
I think like our experiences in every other aspect, right, of our lives, the reality is that race, class, and gender, right, come into play, right? And sexism is alive and well in the LGBTQ movement. And that's not necessarily a critique. And if we are really going to make sure that we are expanding the civil and human rights of our people, we can't honestly think we're going to do that without women in our corner.
Of course not. No,
right?
We can't do it. Hello, who rules the world? Girls.
Right. And the reality is that women of all ages, right? When we look at the expansion of human rights, civil rights, passing essential policies, holding the community and the family together, women have always been there.
Always been at the forefront.
And so we've got to be mindful of how do we support women throughout the movement, wherever they are, however they're engaging and giving back in substantive ways. How are we making sure, like Mayra said, Are we making sure that the pathway is cleared and the door is open?
Are we clearing off the branches and everything so women can get through to that side?
And I will say that, I mean, in my organizing like experience, it was always queer women who really invested in me, who like just had this generosity of spirit.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right? And I think that's like the tradition that KIERA and I are really committed and carrying forward. And I also want to like name like visibility is different than just being in like leadership roles where you have decision making power and being in rooms where you can like influence and make an impact. And I think women at every corner of social justice movements right now, from climate change to immigrant justice to reproductive justice, queer women really are leading the way. And so I think the question is like, how do we actually elevate and amplify their voices? Because they're there.
And we're loud.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we don't apologize,
And
we're not afraid. And it's that spirit that's really, I think, forged the path for each of us.
Very true. So should we be focusing on LGBTQ civil rights at this moment in history?
Absolutely.
Always.
Absolutely.
24 hours a day.
We got to do it. You know, it is clear that when LGBTQ people are engaged, right, in our democracy, when we are engaged and allowed and when we have space where we're able to come together and fortify, we take steps forward, right? And the reality is that the attacks right now are ferocious.
Yes, they are.
They're ferocious. I mean, our kids, in particular, our transgender kids, they are shouldering the attacks. in
And
our
they're
community.
kids.
They're
Yeah.
kids. And so, yes, we have to fight for civil rights. No one gave anybody civil rights. We took them, right?
Yes.
And within the LGBTQ community, it will be no different. But we've got to work together.
Let's talk a little bit about these attacks. Dave Chappelle, the closer, excuse me, his comments towards the trans community. What did you guys feel personally about that? I know, take a breath in, because I love my black brother, and it was very hard because I was a huge fan for many, many years. So then to have to go, I can't listen to you anymore.
Girl,
It was
you're
a
making me
huge
emotional.
thing. I'm sorry, Mama. That's what I do. I make people cry. I'm like the Spanish Oprah.
And laugh. You know, our people are not a monolith, right? Like, we're all on a journey. And so there's a part of me that feels protective because I don't want, you can't be on a journey if you get canceled. Your journey stops if we divest our love, our support, our education, right, of our people. Your journey, you can't continue a journey without that. And I was so sad. Like, you know, when you think about who's being incarcerated, who's being policed in stores, who's being told they can't live somewhere, who's being killed in the streets, it's Black.
Yep.
Queer folks.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, my heart, right? I believe that Dave Chappelle is on a journey like my daddy was on a journey when I came out. He was not okay when I came out. But you know what? That man became my biggest champion, not despite my identities, but because of them. And I hope that Dave Chappelle and others who are not quite where we want them to be are able to open their minds, open their hearts, and open their souls to people who look like them and experience very similar things, who identify with the community and need his support.
Yeah, and would listen to him.
That's right.
He says that we are like the LGBTQ mafia. We're like the gay
Where's the lie?
I mean, no, but I'm like, right, he's not too far off. What do you think, Myra? What do you think? Kiss my ring.
Look,
Kiss my rainbow ring.
I come up against this in the Latinx community all the time.
Me imagino.
Oh my God. And it's, I mean, I jokingly, but also very seriously, reclaim the word sinvergüenza.
Sinvergüenza. That was something my mom used to chase me around with the chancleta saying that. Sinvergüenza.
Soy una sinvergüenza. And I had an experience actually earlier this year where I like walked into a restaurant with my partner at the time. It was a Colombian restaurant in Tampa, here in Tampa. And it's a restaurant I like grew up eating at with my family. And I walked in and you would have thought, they looked at us like we were aliens. And it was, you know, and I think many of us have had those experiences,
of course.
right? And
did you walk in with a mask? Because that happens sometimes. You walk in with a mask somewhere in Florida, people look at you like,
what's wrong
like
with
you got like a big old like wart on your face, you know? And it's like, oh, I'm wearing a mask because I'm being safe. Oh, my bad, people, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we walked in holding hands, right?
Proud of
the couple we were. And so I think it was this moment where I was just like, wow, like, Latinos, especially those of us who have migrated, we all know what that feels like. To walk into a place because of the way you're dressed, because of the way you look, because of your accent, and people just give you the look. Like, we all know what the look feels like. And so for me, it was just like really painful to experience that in this restaurant where I was just like, we were both Latinos, right?
And people in our community have to deal with that every single day.
And there's also stories of like joy and victory that I also want us to uplift, right? It's not all just like problematic people that are coming our communities. My mom is a similar story. My mom, when I came out, she was just like really, really shocked. She tried to do like the not talking to me thing. She lasted about 7 days.
Wow, you go mommy.
And she did total Latina power move, Latina mom power move, where she like FaceTimed me in a week and just like nothing had happened.
Love it.
Has become the fiercest advocate where like sometimes I have to be like, mommy, just, we don't have to do that here. But she's just, when I go into places or when I've been with a partner, she's just on high alert, looking. Yeah. And I mean, those are the stories too of like transformation. I think it was through her love.
Yes.
And through your love that you were able to transform them. How do your parents feel about like the what's going on right now, like how we are attacked, how with Dave Chappelle and stuff like that, and all these Republicans and evangelicals that want us dead, basically, and want us not to breathe anymore? How does your parents that like before weren't too supportive, now that they have queer daughters, have changed their tune?
You know, I feel like my family they really are my biggest cheerleaders, you know, and there are some family members I can have a deeper political conversation with than others. But I mean, with every passing day, that expands. I have an uncle who is a Mormon, and he knows what I do, and he knows that I work on LGBTQ issues, and something came up where he was, and he called my mom, and he said, I understand what KIERA does now, and I'm learning so much, and I'm so proud of her.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And they're worried. They're worried about me. They're worried about
Your
others
safety.
who are coming out, right? Like in these times in our family. But they're also fiercely proud. You know, my father, before he passed away, I swear, I mean, you would think I was the president of the United States. Like anyone who would listen, he'd be like, oh, my daughter goes to the White House. I wasn't at the White House. My daughter talking to Hillary Clinton. I'm like, Dad, I never talked to Hillary.
My daughter is like this with Obama and Michelle.
No, seriously. I'm like, his stories of me, I'm like, I'm never going to live up to that, dude. But super, super fiercely, you know, supportive.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And ready to check other people.
Oh, honey, in a heartbeat, right?
And those are the people that we need to turn and educate, though, ladies. Those are the important people that are going to go and tell the rest of their crew, no, we've been wrong all along. Listen to this. These are the differences that our daughters are doing. This is what we're paving the way to do, you know? Right. All right, let's get a little political. What should we be focusing on for the midterm elections, and what can we do?
So I'm looking at all of these Republicans, and I don't think Democrats are excused either. Some Democrats in there who are not standing behind the Equality Act, who are afraid to take a real step towards supporting federal non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ people, and I think that is a huge opportunity for us to expose them in midterms, Marco Rubio, I'm looking at you. You're up for a re-election. I've noticed, and I also remember where you stand on immigration as well.
Say it, girl.
So,
and I love that final. I love that final look at the camera, like, yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, Rubio.
Yeah, Rubio. So I think there's an opportunity for us to really figure out and lay a foundation to show what the LGBTQ vote means, right? We need to be able to deliver a political punch that is strong enough, where people understand, whether they love us, like us, accept us, they understand that it is politically inconvenient and unacceptable for them to not stand with our community. That's the kind of conditions I want to create through these midterms, and that's work that's sometimes 10 plus years in the making, but we're in it for the long haul.
I know you girls are in it for the long haul, and it does take a long time. I read somewhere that I think our representation in public and private office was about like 1,000 plus. That's about it. That's nothing. How can we get more of our community out there and running?
Well, I think to Mayra's point, we've got to reinvest in our people, right? I mean, our democracy is hanging in the balance. And the only way we're going to rebuild it, the only way we're going to strengthen it is if we get our community engaged. That's easier said than done sometimes, right? It's hard to convince people they need to be connected, right, to government, right, or to elections when they feel ignored or they feel like they've fallen through the cracks.
Like it doesn't represent them.
Yeah. So we've got some mending work to do, right? Like we've got to create new pathways for people to engage. And I think when people have opportunities to build bridges in their communities, to have these conversations with elected officials, right? To like have, conversations about different policies that are interested to them, most of us get bitten by that bug, and then it's hard to turn them off.
Yes, girl.
Right? So we just need to knock on those doors, right? We need to be in the bars. Like, let's talk politics.
Let's go to the bars.
Yes! Let's register voters at the bar. Let's go to church. Let's have childcare and then talk to parents about what their fears are and what their dreams and hopes are, right? Like, we know how to do this.
We do.
So then let's do it.
Are there moments where your light is dimmed? Like I have a dog rescue organization, right? And if you're a dog lover, you know that there's many dogs out there that need homes, and it's a constant thing, and they're constantly calling us. And for every 5 dogs we rescue, there's 20 out there that need our help. Is there ever a moment where you're just like, ay, ya, no puedo más, I can't anymore. Maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe somebody else should be carrying the torch.
I have those days, and then I call my mommy. If you need a pep talk, you should call Mayra, the OG. I'm named after her, Mayra Salazar. She will pep talk me into the right place. But I mean, of course we have those days. I mean, seeing what's happening with all of these anti-trans bills, seeing what's happening with the attacks on reproductive justice, it's hard not to feel weighed down by that. And I want to make our work and the political work we do so infectious and so irresistible that it just like radiates that heaviness out of the moment.
But I have to tell you that you guys are infectious, and you make me want to run out. It's super mad early right now to go make change, but I would try with coffee in hand.
I know that's right.
So girls, after seeing so many gains with the Biden-Harris administration and the White House, are you scared about our future to return to darker days? Do you think that's even possible?
I think when we don't lean into our agency and power, anything's possible, right? We have to continuously remind our people that we are the government. The government isn't over there. We are the government, which means the power. We are seated in power. So what does that mean to hold that responsibility? What does it mean to leverage that for the good of the community? yeah, I do have fear, but I have more hope than I have fear. Again, I look at all these young people who are fiercely queer, right? Sin vergüenza.
Sin vergüenza, right? And unapologetically.
Unapologetic.
Yes.
And they're not just walking in an identity, they are political about it. They are cultural about it. They want to talk to their faith leaders about it. They want to be recognized in their educational institutions. They want to know how come they are treated less than human in the United States of America, and it's not a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Massive power.
Massively powerful. So that gives me a lot of hope. A lot of hope.
Mayra?
I share this story a lot because I'm still kind of reeling from it, but I have a sister friend whose daughter is queer, and I've become the quintessential like queer auntie, right? And like she's like, I don't know how to talk to her about this. I don't want to say the wrong thing. Just Mayra, I just need you to go talk to her. And I was coaching this 14-year-old girl through polydrama.
Wow.
You know,
it's a new day.
What queer drama? The only queer drama I had at 14 was in my head. It was my imaginary. It was your
imaginary girlfriend in your head. So, because my imaginary girlfriend at 14, her name was Maria. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking to her, and she's just like, I think we have to revisit our agreements, and I'm like, okay, suspending judgment and just disbelief and just putting on my queer auntie hat, and then at the same time I'm just like, wow,
mesmerized by fluidity, by the strength,
by like adolescent queer drama.
Yes, we didn't have any of that.
Yes. And the maturity. I mean, there's a lot of the drama, but even at that age to be saying, we need to
revisit our agreements.
Renegotiate
we need
our
to,
agreements.
yes, exactly.
For what?
Yeah.
I know grown people who don't do that well. So, I mean,
for sure.
I think we're doing a good job, right? Like, we've still got work to do, but when we are, you know, raising children who are in that kind of reflective
in that power
place, there's nothing but good that's going to come from that.
Any PTSD from Trump world,
from
Trump
God.
administration? Look, I still can't. I always make fun with my friends because I'm like, I can't look at a pickup truck with an American flag, okay, my country, and I'm like, like weirded out by it.
I drive a Jeep. Yeah,
how very butch of you, Mayra. How very butch of you. Mayra's single, in case if anybody likes a lesbian that drives a Jeep. Yum.
So I drive a Jeep, and you know, there's also like a group of like white nationalist people who drive Jeeps. I didn't learn this until after I got a Jeep. And so like there's the Jeep wave, right? The Wrangler wave that people do.
How is it? Can you please do the wave for me?
Like, or sometimes just like that.
Okay. You don't whip out a boob or anything?
No.
Okay,
no surprises.
Okay.
So it's fascinating because like for the longest time there was a lot of like people with like Trump flags or like Make America Great Again like signs on their Jeeps that would just wave at me, and I would be like,
don't follow me.
Don't shoot me.
I'm Spanish. You're trying to look as white as possible. You're trying to drive white.
So I worked on the 2020 elections. I'm actually the co-founder of United We Dream Action. You might have heard about our role in getting a certain orange agent out of office.
Certain Cheeto head, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were wiped. Yeah. I think I'm still wiped, honestly, from that. That was 4 years of endless attacks and against immigrants, which also worth like emphasizing includes queer people,
right?
Yeah. LGBTQ immigrants, and like our disparities around immigration issues are like tenfold. So I was wiped. I probably still have some PTSD. I'm in therapy. I'm working through it, and I'm not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere.
It was also not just political attacks or policy attacks. I mean, it was that administration attacked our humanity
in every way.
I mean, and that, of course, people have PTSD or residual trauma from that, because you can't go for years and ignite a whole movement that is arguing that you shouldn't be alive, that you shouldn't be able to participate in the democracy, that you actually don't deserve full rights. I mean, that is demoralizing, and it is a journey for many of us to come back from that and to have hope and to be, you know, visionary. And then COVID started. It was like, no, universe, what are you trying to tell us? So I think it's real, and our people are resilient.
Yes, we are. We've been through so much.
We've been through so much.
Man. We've been fighting since we opened our eyes, since we
Yes.
came out of the vag. Bah!
Yes. Yes, we create communities, we create families, we create healthcare systems. I mean, we have created the context for our survival and the ability for our people to thrive. I mean, if anybody, right? So we're talking about queer folks, we're talking about people of color, we're talking about women. Like, we have had to be creative.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We've had to march, right, in the face of discrimination. That's not new.
Nope.
We've got those chops. And, you know, it's all about how are we going to use it in these new times.
Yeah. So we are at the end of the year already. Can you guys believe that? Es que como, wow. So we're almost at the end of the year and ready to begin a new one, because we thought 2020 was bad and then 2021 was like another ball of. What excites you the most of 2022? What excites you the most of the coming year?
I am excited to see more people, to be able to put my heart next to someone else's heart, to hug, right? To strategize in the same room and not on Zoom. You know, we're starting to be in the community again, like boots on the ground, you know, our hands, right, in the weeds. And I'm really excited about that. Like, I'm glad we've been able to continue through COVID, but there's nothing like being able to look at you in your eyes.
That personal energy that you share between two people.
It's magic.
Yes.
And I'm excited to get back to making magic with people.
Well, I have to tell you, ladies, that wherever you guys walk into, you create magic. I've got to say it. Like, you know, it's way too early in the morning, and I am just blown away by your beauty, by your creativity, by your passion, by your work. Thank you for everything that you do. Keep kicking ass.
Yeah.
Girl power. And thank you for being on the first Faye What Show as my first interview. I love you, ladies.
Love you back.
Thank you for having us.
Well, please help me to again say thank you to these beautiful, beautiful women, Miss KIERA Johnson and Miss MAYRA Hidalgo Salazar from the LGBTQ task force right here on the Faye What Show. So, did you enjoy the show? I know you did. So make sure to click subscribe so you won't miss any of the events, news, or interviews right here on the Faye What Show. Ring the bell at the bottom of the screen, right there, so you'll be alerted every time we're live. You can also click on the Happening Out Television Network logo so you can see all of the shows on the most diverse LGBTQ+ media network. Find out just what we're doing to bring the L and the G together right here on the Faye What Show.